Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Tori and today we are setting up my reading journal for June. I will be using two Pigma microns today in Sepia in sizes 005 and 05. I have a few Calligraphs pulled out as well that I'll be using. I only know the colors of two. The third one doesn't have a color on it, but the colors I know are Slate Blue and Fresh Moss. And then my N89 Tombow dual brush pen as well. I have an archival black ink, my stamp set, my reading journal stamp set that's available on my Etsy shop, and then an alpha stamp that was recently released from Studio Calico. I also have some of the fantastic washi tape that the washi tape shop sent me. This is the Cottage Charm washi tape sticker set. And then I'm going to be using some of the very thin, solid colors from the Floral Lane bundle. And I'm going to be using this all together as just my general theme for the month, which is kind of just going to be foods. I'm primarily just going to be using the sticker washi tape that has like the fruits and the foods on it and the breads. Not really any of the two larger ones with the larger sticker designs, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to be drawing boxes in each of my spreads, and then in those boxes I'm just going to kind of lay these foods out, sort of like a background image, and then use an X-Acto knife or my Cricut knife to kind of chop off anything that's going to be going over these lines. So for my cover page, I decided to make a big bold frame, and I've drawn essentially two lines to create that frame. And then inside that frame is where I will be placing all of those food stickers. I also drew like a very tiny line over on the right-hand side of my spread, and that's where I will be putting my hopeful reads for June. This alpha from Studio Calico is going to be the one that I'm using to letter out my June title, but this is the absolute only time I will be using this alphabet in this setup. I'll be using my personal stamp set for all of my headers, so I don't necessarily need an alpha for that, but I didn't have anything that said June right out on it that filled up enough of the space that I wanted, so I chose this alpha. If it's still available, I will link it in the description box below for you. Here is my stamp set. I'm pulling out my hopeful reads. And then I'm also going to be pulling out the teeny tiny book that's on this stamp set as well. And I'm going to be using that as kind of my bullet point that I will place the books that I want to read this month in. And that little tiny book stamp is just ever so slightly bigger than the 5mm dot grid. So it works perfectly as a just decorative bullet point if you wanted to use it that way, like I am using it in this spread. I will share a closer image of this whole cover page on my Instagram stories, so feel free to head over there and check it out if you want to see a little bit closer up of an image of that. Now I am just kind of laying things out randomly. I am going to use so many of these stickers from this roll, and I'm just going to lay them all over. I will fill probably about half of everything up and then decide that I should start trimming off some of the edges because I don't want to waste any of this washi sticker. So what I'm going to do with the pieces that I trim off is just lay them somewhere else around my border. Waste no washi tape here. I did say earlier that this washi tape is from the washi tape shop. So if you want to go over and check it out, I do have a promo code for the washi tape shop that will save you 10% off of your order. It is an affiliate code, and I will pop that up on the screen here for you, and you can get it in the description box as well. I will say that I absolutely love the way that this washi tape kind of border turns out, and I'm going to also love every single spread in this setup. So definitely let me know down in the comments below which spread ends up being your favorite through today's setup. I really love this cover page, but I think my most favorite spread or pages are going to be my visual time to read and reading log page, which are going to be the next ones that we do once we finish this one. This setup didn't take me a surprisingly long time to do. The most time-consuming part was that of trimming down each of the washi tape stickers to make sure that they are fitting within each of the lined kind of borders I gave them. But even with doing all of that, I think it only took me a total of about 45 minutes or so to get everything fully set up. And for my pre-sketching out of this journal, I really just drew a bunch of boxes. It wasn't so super difficult because I have been kind of keeping my spreads almost exactly the same month over month. The only one that's really been changing is my totals page, but everything else has been kind of having like a very similar layout. So I'm kind of getting familiar with how many dot grid spaces that I need for each page. So it's getting a lot quicker to set up those sketches. Moving along, we are going to go ahead and get my visual time to read and my reading log spreads done now. And like I said, this one I think is ultimately going to be my favorite over the full month setup. For my visual time to read spread, I am drawing a box above and below my calendar. This box is 4 dot grid spaces tall, and then I'm coming in from each side of the paper about 2 dot grid spaces as well. And then my visual time to read calendar is exactly the same as it has been since I set this journal up. And I'm honestly a little bit shocked that I have been just loving this so much that I have not even felt the need to change it at all. For my reading log, I am going to do a very long, tall box on the left-hand side of the page. And then I'm just drawing my two kind of very thick lines for each little spot for me to place a book. I did mess up one of the lines when I was doing it out, when I was drawing it out, but I will either cover that up using like a white gel pen or just a piece of like sticker paper or something. I'm not entirely sure yet, but I'll probably break that line back up when we get closer to June and I'm actually filling this in, because that's when it will really bother me. One thing I'm doing a little bit differently this month for my reading log is I'm going to be highlighting the very first row of each kind of book area. I do allow myself 2 lines for each of my books. The first line generally holds the title and the rating after I finish reading the book, and then the second line holds all of the details about the book and the dates that I read it. And then once I have all of that filled in, I will then transfer that information over to my visual time to read calendar with the dates from the start and the finish. I don't add them to my calendar until after I finish the book, so I can just draw like one solid line. So I'm using my stamp set for my titles. One says visual time to read and the other says reading log. And then the last thing that we're going to be doing, well, not the last thing because I still have to do my colors for my visual time to read calendar, but the second to last thing that we'll be doing is getting my stickers added. I'm going to be doing the exact same thing that I did here as I did on my cover page, where I'm just going to lay out randomly with kind of no rhyme or reason a bunch of these stickers. And then once I feel like I've got a decent amount on the page, I'm going to go in and start chopping them up so they're fitting within their designated boxes. And then I'm going to take the kind of cut off pieces and place them elsewhere throughout the spread to fill in some of that empty space. The one thing that I did try to do when I was setting this up and doing these boxes like this is if I had something that was like a very bright color, like these strawberries or the cherries, I did try to kind of space those out a little bit so they weren't right next to each other. That way it kind of flowed a little bit better and kind of looked good on your eye, just to, I don't know, make it look a little bit more cohesive, I guess, and more layered together. For my labeling for my visual time to read calendar, I'm going to pull out this little star cluster stamp from my stamp, and I'm going to use those as kind of like little bullet points. And then I'm going to title each of my sections and highlight them a color that kind of matches the washi tape stickers that I ended up using. I will be adding a Kindle / audiobook mix situation to this spread because I do, and I mentioned this last month or this month in my May setup, I do read a lot of books digitally while also listening to the Kindle book. Like I do it simultaneously because I feel like it helps me retain the information and understand a little bit better what's happening. So for those types of books, I have decided potentially that I'm just going to call them KA Mix to stand for Kindle and Audio Mix. I don't know if that's going to be a permanent name that I'm going to call it, but that's what I've been writing in my May reading log. So I figured I'd give it an official go for June and see how I like it before I kind of stick to it. So we are done with those 2 pages, and we are going to move on to the final 2 pages of this setup, which are going to be my favorite book page and my totals page. And if you'll remember at the beginning of this video, I mentioned that I would be using the Floral Lane kind of very thin, solid washi tapes. Well, spoiler alert, I forgot all about those washi tapes until I got to this page. This, my totals page specifically, is the page that I decided that I was going to use the skinny washi tapes on because I wanted to do my totals in a specific way that I had some empty boxes around them. And you'll see some of them have a line that looks like it would be for a header, and then others are just fully empty. Those fully empty boxes I wanted to fill with my quote unquote pattern, but because I was doing that, I didn't also want to put a large box on either side of it. So in my mind, I was like, oh, cool, I could just use these skinny washi tapes and make like 2 little lines on the edges, and then I can incorporate that throughout my spread as well. So until I got to this page and I was like, why does this page look so weird? It looks so empty. Then I remembered I had not been using that skinny washi tape. So I will, after we get these 2 kind of halfway done, I will flip all the way back through and add that skinny washi tape to almost every page that we've done previously already. I am alternating the colors that I chose for this setup, the 4 colors. I'm alternating them between my title boxes on the totals page, and I'm also alternating them on the box that I'll place my book cover in for my favorite book of this month. And I really like the way that both of these worked out. And I kind of hope that my favorite book for June matches at least one of the colors that's in that box, because that would just make my heart very happy. So I'm just going to get this very thin washi tape laid down now. On my totals page, I'm doing both colors, and I'm doing 2 strips of each color at the top and 2 strips of each color at the bottom. I left room on my favorite book page to just add 1 strip right underneath the top kind of background box that I have. And then I also actively left space on my previous spreads. So I'm just going to go back and pop these thin washies in where I had left those spaces. So on my reading log, I left a space right next to that long box. And then for my visual time to read calendar, I had wanted to place a piece of washi just right on top of that calendar where like the empty days are. So that's where that's going to go. Here I'm just kind of deciding if I wanted to place 2 there or just leave it as 1. And I ultimately decided to leave it as 1. Then for my cover page, I just wanted one of each color, kind of 1 strip of each color. On the bottom, I'm placing that like peachy orange color. And then on the top, I'm going to place that green super thin washi as a border right underneath that bottom line. And then we will hop back over to our spread that we were actually working on. We don't have a ton left to do on this spread other than kind of stamp out my titles and then just add in each of the washi tape clusters and background boxes. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually stamp out my titles. I have a favorite book and then I have totals, and I'm actually going to stamp out the correct title for my favorite book page this month. Last month I stamped reading log on this page, and honestly I didn't, well, this month because I set up my May like at the 10th of May or something like that. I don't know. But I stamped favorite book there, and I finally covered it up I think like 2 days ago. I'm going to erase the lines around my background boxes, and I've been doing this throughout my spread. I just don't like placing washi tape over pencil because washi tape is semi-see-through and you can kind of see the pencil lines through it. So I do not like that at all. It might not bother some people, but that is like a huge pet peeve of mine. So I am going through, and anytime I see a line that I wouldn't be able to erase afterwards, as I'm sticking these washi tape stickers down, I am just pulling out my little eraser and getting those erased before they drive me a little bit bonkers in the future. So as I'm kind of getting these last pieces of washi tape down and I am trimming them all out, I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit of music on, and I will come back and talk to you when we do the final flip through. And we are just about done here. So this is going to be the end of my final page. I'll do a little bit of erasing, but I'm not going to have a lot of that on camera. So yeah, this is the end, and we will jump right into my final flip through. I would love to know your thoughts in the comments below and let me know what your favorite spread is. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!